Davis greets you softly tonight. He asks, "Where are you listening from?" Then, "How was your day?" He smiles through his voice, invites you to share in the comments, invites you to subscribe if you enjoy quiet mysteries. He sets a gentle tone, a calm evening, a warm seat by the fire, and a simple promise. Tonight, we enter a quiet English village where small secrets never stay small. Miss Marple arrived at Hawthorne Lodge just after breakfast. Quiet entrance, simple greeting, no fuss. Raymond West walked ahead of her, carrying her small bag. He talked about his new book. Light chatter, nothing serious, but his eyes kept drifting toward the village road. He sensed something. He just didn't name it. Miss Marple removed her gloves, neatly, calm hands, controlled movements. She sat by the window, her usual place. She began knitting without looking down. The rhythm helped her think. It always had. Outside, Winterwell on the green moved slowly. Steady steps, quiet faces, a village preparing for the frost fair. Simple tasks, yet every action carried a small edge. A hesitation here, a quick glance there. People sensed something in the air. People always did. Raymond leaned on the frame of the doorway. "Aunt Jane," he said, "you do notice how tense they look, don't you?" Miss Marple nodded once. "Something unsettles them," she replied. Short, plain, accurate. A cart passed the lodge gate. 2 villagers walked beside it. They whispered, stopped, looked toward Hawthorne Lodge, then moved on quickly. Raymond frowned. "That's the 3rd time someone's glanced over today." "Yes," Miss Marple murmured. "They are waiting." "For what?" "Events reveal themselves," she said. Her voice calm, her eyes sharp. She returned to her knitting, tightened one stitch, thought for a moment. "Winterwell never does tension quietly," Raymond said. Miss Marple gave a soft smile. "Every village believes that," she said. "But this one feels expectant." He stepped closer. "You think something will happen at the fair?" "Something always happens at gatherings," she said. "People forget themselves. People show themselves." She watched a woman hurry past the gate. The woman carried a folded letter, gripped too tightly, jaw set, eyes forward. Miss Marple noted the posture. Not fear, not urgency. Something else. Something she would name later. Raymond sighed. He poured tea for both of them, handed her a cup. His hand shook slightly. Not fear, concern, quiet, but visible. "A writer notices tension," he said. "A detective names it," Miss Marple replied. The church bell rang once. Not a call, just a sound. But villagers reacted. Every head turned, then turned away too quickly. Miss Marple lowered her knitting. She listened, not to the bell, to the silence after it. Something shifted in that silence. Something small, something sharp. Raymond watched her carefully. "What did you hear?" Miss Marple looked out toward the green, her voice steady, measured, certain. "Someone is worried," she said, "and they have reason to be." She rose from her chair, slow, controlled. She looked toward the gate again. Then she spoke the words that set everything in motion. "It begins today, whether anyone is ready or not." Sir Bernard Linton arrived first. Straight back, fixed jaw, measured steps. He inspected the fair stalls as if inspecting troops. Every corner, every detail. Nothing escaped him. Nothing ever had. People respected him. People feared him too. He carried authority the way other men carried coats, comfortably, effortlessly. Yet his eyes were restless today. He scanned faces, then scanned them again. A man with rules. A man holding something back. A secret he wouldn't name. Lady Amelia Linton stood a step behind him. Calm smile. Soft. Voice. Controlled posture. She greeted every villager with warmth. No hesitation, no misstep, but her hands told the real story. Tense fingers. Quick adjustments. A small tremor when someone mentioned the fair's schedule. She carried strain the way some women carried jewelry, always present, always visible, if you knew where to look. Miss Marple looked. She always did. Mr. Jonas Fielding leaned casually against the ticket booth. New arrival, sharp coat, sharper grin. He charmed every passerby, asked harmless questions, made harmless jokes, but nothing harmless lingered in his eyes. Too alert, too calculating. He watched reactions like a man gathering information. People smiled back out of politeness, but after passing him, they checked their pockets, checked their thoughts too. No one trusted Jonas Fielding. Not yet. Maybe never. Oliver Pike strutted through the crowd next. Bold steps. Loud laugh. Too loud. People winced when they heard it. He waved, as if he owned half the village. He owned none of it. Just debts, rumors, trouble. He spoke to everyone like they owed him something. Many did, or believed they did. Oliver thrived on that confusion, on that pressure. He enjoyed being watched. He enjoyed the tension he caused. And tension followed him now. Thick, uncomfortable, like a shadow. Clara Merton lingered near the craft tables. Quiet posture, lowered head, but her eyes moved constantly. Sharp, fast, precise. She noticed everything. Every glance, every reaction, every whisper. Clara wasn't from Winterwell. She wasn't settled yet, but she listened better than anyone. Listened with caution. Listened with history. Whatever brought her to the village wasn't simple. Miss Marple knew the signs. Clara watched the Lintons too long, watched Jonas Fielding even longer, as if she recognized something she shouldn't. Then came Mrs. Edith Crowley, basket in hand, eyes ready, mouth ready too. She saw more in one morning than most saw in a week. Her specialty was information, small details, odd habits, sudden changes. She collected them, prepared them, shared them when needed or when dramatic. She approached Miss Marple first. Of course she did. Crowley always knew where the true observer stood. Strange morning, she whispered. Miss Marple nodded once. Crowley leaned closer. A few people looked worried. Miss Marple didn't ask who. She already had a list. 6 villagers, 6 different tensions, 6 quiet secrets shifting under polite smiles. The fair bell rang. Villagers turned. Every gaze sharpened, every breath shortened. Miss Marple set down her knitting. Something had just changed, and she felt the change before anyone else. The snow masquerade opened at noon. Simple start, quick music, short greetings, masks handed out at the entrance. Villagers moved in slow lines. Controlled. Careful. Too careful. Miss Marple watched from the bed edge. Knitting bag beside her. Hands still. Eyes active. She saw Sir Bernard Linton first. Mask in one hand. Rigid posture. He scanned the crowd like he expected trouble. Maybe he did. Maybe he knew the reason. He stepped toward a stall, then stopped. Eyes narrowing. Something didn't please him. Something bothered him already. Oliver Pike arrived next. Mask already on. Bright. Flashy. Loud. He pushed his way through a group of teenagers. They stepped aside without a word. Oliver enjoyed that. Power through annoyance. Power through noise. He spotted Sir Bernard. He walked straight toward him. Fast. Confident. Almost gleeful. Sir Bernard stiffened. The exchange hit instantly. Short words, sharp tone, no attempt to hide it. "You owe me an explanation," Sir Bernard said. "No," Oliver replied. "You owe me a favor." Their voices were low, but the tension carried, even across the square. 2 men, opposite lives, opposite morals. Both, unwilling to bend. Miss Marple noted their angles. Sir Bernard leaning forward, Oliver leaning back. A standoff disguised as conversation, a warning in plain sight. Clara Merton stood near the sweets stall, mask in her hand, not on her face. She wasn't focused on the treats. She looked at Oliver, then at Sir Bernard, back and forth. Her eyes tightened. She stepped back slightly, flinched, not from fear, from recognition. Something between those men connected to her, some old thread. Miss Marple marked it silently. Across the square, Jonas Fielding entertained 2 villagers. Light jokes, quick smiles, but his gaze kept drifting to Oliver, watching, measuring, silent interest, silent calculation. Miss Marple caught that too. Then Lady Amelia Linton entered, mask held close to her chest, face calm, too calm. She moved with small, steady steps. Then she saw Oliver. She froze for half a second, just half. Then she changed direction. Sharp turn. Forced. Smile. Her hands tightened, knuckles pale. She crossed the square, found Sir Bernard, whispered something in his ear. He paused, looked at her, looked at Oliver, his jaw locked. Oliver laughed loudly, too loudly. He enjoyed someone's discomfort. Maybe hers, maybe Bernard's, maybe both. Lady Amelia's shoulders rose once, a controlled breath. Then she walked away. Fast steps, head down, mask trembling slightly in her hand. She passed Miss Marple without noticing. Didn't greet anyone, didn't look back. Crowley whispered, "Trouble in that family." Miss Marple didn't answer. She watched the direction Amelia had gone. She watched Oliver look pleased. She watched Bernard look furious. She watched Clara look frightened. One masquerade, 6 tensions, all rising, all pulling toward a single point. Miss Marple tightened her grip on her knitting bag. She knew the pattern. She had seen it before. Someone was about to break. The shout cut through the fair, sharp, urgent, immediate. People stopped. Heads turned. Voices fell away. Another shout followed. Closer, clearer. "Someone's down! At the bandstand!" A wave of movement surged. Not fast, not chaotic, just tense. Controlled panic. Miss Marple stood, set her knitting aside. Her eyes sharpened instantly. She moved without rush. But she moved with purpose. Raymond followed her. He tried to look calm. He failed. Villagers crowded around the bandstand. Bodies pressed too close, too curious, too afraid. Miss Marple slipped through. People made space for her automatically. Habit, respect, and something else, expectation. Then she saw him, Oliver Pike, collapsed near the steps, flat on his back. Arms loose, chest still, face pale, too pale. A strange white mask lay in his right hand, held tight, gripped as if he meant to keep it, or meant to show it. Miss Marple noted the pressure of his fingers. Not accidental, not random. A faint yellow. Smears streaked across the railing beside him. Small, thin, easy to miss, but not missed by her. Never missed by her. She moved closer. "Let me through," she said. Quiet voice. Firm tone. People stepped back again. She knelt beside Oliver. Her movements minimal, measured. She checked his pulse. None. Checked his breath. None. Checked the angle of his body. No sign of a struggle. No sign of a fall. Every detail spoke one thing. He didn't collapse by chance. Raymond hovered behind her. "Aunt Jane, what happened?" She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the mask. Then on the smear. Then on Oliver's left hand, empty. Completely empty. Too empty. His glove was missing. She noticed immediately. One glove gone. One glove still on. A mismatch that meant something. Something very specific. Something dangerous. Crowley gasped. Was it his heart? Miss Marple didn't respond. She leaned closer to Oliver's fingers. She avoided touching them. She just looked. A faint residue clung to his skin. Not snow, not dirt. Something else. Jonas Fielding pushed through the crowd. Wide eyes, shallow breath. What happened to him? Who saw it? No one answered. No one claimed to see the moment. Everyone claimed to have heard the shout. Convenient. Too convenient. Sir Bernard arrived, pushing harder than he should. He froze when he saw Oliver, his jaw clenched, his shoulders locked. Not grief, not shock. Recognition. Miss Marple saw it, noted it, stored it. Lady Amelia stood behind him, hand over her mouth, eyes trembling. Not theatrical. Real. Deep. Old. Clara Merton stood apart, still, frozen. her eyes fixed on Oliver's hand, then on the railing. She swallowed once, hard, painfully. Then she stepped back, as if she recognized the smear, as if she feared it. Miss Marple whispered the truth before anyone else had courage for it. Soft voice, clear meaning. Something is very wrong. She stood slowly, looked across the villagers, looked at the masks, looked at the hands, looked at the faces trying not to look guilty. And then she said the words only a few heard, the words that turned affair into an investigation. This was no collapse. Constable Peter Hamble arrived in under 5 minutes. Quick steps, uneven breath. He tried to look calm. He wasn't. He reached the bandstand. He froze when he saw Oliver. His face tightened. He forced authority into his voice. "Everyone step back, please." They stepped back. 1/2 inch only. Fear held them close. Dr. Tobias Gray pushed in after him. Medical bag already open. No small talk. He knelt beside Oliver, checked pulse, checked eyes, checked skin. He shook his head once. Slow. Final. Constable Hamble swallowed. Cause? Unknown, Dr. Gray said. But not natural. The words hit the crowd. Soft impact. Hard reaction. Someone whispered, "Poison?" Someone else whispered, "Nonsense." Crowley whispered everything twice. Miss Marple stayed silent. She watched movements, not words. They told the truth first. She leaned slightly, looked at Oliver's hands again. One glove gone, one glove still on. A clue, a gap, a puzzle piece left on purpose. Constable Hamble bent over the body. He tried to look thorough. He looked overwhelmed. What was he holding? Miss Marple answered quietly. A mask. Hamble lifted it with a cloth. He sniffed, stopped immediately. Smell that? He asked Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray nodded. Yes. Sharp. Chemical. Not common. Miss Marple noted the smell too. Not strong. Just enough. Just wrong enough. Dr. Gray checked Oliver's pocket. He paused, pulled out a folded note, thin, crumpled, typed. Hamble opened it carefully. Read the line. Meet me at the bandstand before the fair. He frowned. Who wrote this? No one answered. Of course they didn't. Miss Marple watched the villager's eyes. Bernard looked at the ground. Amelia looked away. Jonas Fielding stared too long at the note. Clara Merton looked sick. Each reaction held a piece of truth. Separate. Hidden. Heavy. Hamble cleared his throat. Did anyone see him arrive? 3 people said yes. 4 people said no. 2 people said they didn't remember. All contradictions. All telling. Doctor. Gray inspected Oliver's lips and neck. No marks, he said. No wounds. No sign of a fall. He leaned closer to the mask. There's residue. What kind? Hamble asked. Can't say yet, but it wasn't from the snow. Miss Marple's eyes tightened. Snow didn't smear yellow. Snow didn't sting the air. Snow didn't kill men in seconds. Clara Merton stepped forward. I saw him earlier, she said softly. Her voice shook. But he wasn't holding the mask then. Where was he? Hamble asked. With Jonas, she said. Jonas flinched. He only asked for directions. That is not what you said earlier, Miss Marple interrupted. Jonas froze. He knew she heard him lie. Lady Amelia spoke next. He was near the Linton stall. Sir Bernard snapped. He was not. She looked frightened by his tone. Another lie. Another crack. More contradictions spread across the group. Small lies. Small gaps. Small fractures pointing toward something larger. Miss Marple lifted her eyes to the bandstand steps. Studied the smear again. Studied the mask again. Studied the missing glove again. Then she whispered the line only Hamble heard. He didn't drop dead. She looked at the note in his hand. He met someone. Hamble stiffened. Who? Miss Marple didn't answer yet. Her gaze shifted to the crowd. Slow. Sharp. Certain. She found one face holding too much fear. Too much guilt. Too much knowledge. She looked directly at them. I believe, she said quietly, they're standing right here. Miss Marple began her visits after the crowd thinned. No fuss, no announcement, just steady steps. Her method never changed. A quiet knock, a gentle greeting. Then she let people reveal themselves. She started with the Linton house. Lady Amelia answered, too quickly, too breathless. "Miss Marple, I didn't expect." Miss Marple nodded politely. "Just checking on you, my dear." The house smelled faintly of smoke. Paper smoke. Old paper. Freshly burned paper. Lady Amelia tried to block the sitting-room door. Too obvious, too tense. Miss Marple stepped anyway. She saw the small fire grate, still warm, a few ash fragments, edges of embossed stationery, recognizable, Linton family seal. "You've had a busy afternoon," Miss Marple said. Lady Amelia stiffened. "Just clearing clutter." Her voice wavered. Not grief. Fear. Deep fear. Miss Marple said nothing more. She only smiled. A soft smile that told Amelia she had seen enough. Next, she visited Clara Merton. Clara opened the door with shaking hands. Her coat was still on. Buttoned wrong. She had been pacing, or preparing to leave, or running from a thought she didn't want to face. "Clara, my dear," Miss Marple said. "Rough day?" Clara nodded. Couldn't speak. Eyes wide, full of something heavy. Guilt, or fear of guilt. She gripped the coat collar with white knuckles. She avoided eye contact. She kept glancing at her bag. Packed halfway. Clothes, letters, something wrapped. Planning a trip. Miss Marple asked. Clara flinched. "No, I just needed space." A lie. Soft, but clear. "Did you see Oliver before the fair?" Clara hesitated too long. "Yes," she said, but her voice shook. A half-truth. Something missing. Miss Marple left gently. She didn't push. Clara was close to breaking on her own. Jonas Fielding's room at the inn was next. He paced when she entered. Fast. Nervous. He didn't hide it. "Miss Marple, I told Constable Hamble everything." "But not me," she said. He stopped. Eyes locked on hers. He ran a hand through his hair. Shallow breath. Agitated posture. "Look, I barely knew Oliver." Another lie. Too smooth, practiced. Jonas avoided her questions with charm. Useless charm. She saw through him in seconds. He slipped once. Said he saw Oliver at noon. Then later said Oliver visited him earlier in the morning. 2 different timelines. 2 different stories. One truth buried somewhere in between. Miss Marple noted every shift, every inconsistency, every defensive gesture. Jonas was hiding knowledge, and hiding it poorly. She ended the round with Sir Bernard. He opened the door stiffly. Expression locked. Jaw set. "Another inquiry," he said. "Another concern," she replied. He kept his arms crossed, a wall built out of habit and pride. "Where were you before the fair?" she asked. "Here," he said. "Too fast. Too neat. Too rehearsed." She saw the glove on his table. Just one. Not his size. Not his style. A misplaced object. A dangerous one. He noticed her glance. He moved in front of it. "Nothing of interest there," he said, which made it everything of interest. Miss Marple thanked him, left quietly, but her mind worked quickly. 4 homes, 4 lies, 4 paths that crossed at Oliver Pike. She stepped out into the cold. Her conclusion formed slowly, logically, inevitably. Someone wasn't just lying. Someone was running out of time. "Doctor." Tobias Gray arrived at the lodge just after sunset. No ceremony, no long explanation. He walked in with purpose. Medical bag in hand. Face serious. Miss Marple waited by the small table. Hands folded. Expression calm. Eyes sharp. She already sensed the direction of his news. She simply waited for the details. Dr. Gray placed his bag down, opened a small notebook, clicked his pen once, then spoke without delay. It was poison. Straight. Direct. No hesitation. Raymond sucked in a breath. Miss Marple did not react. She only said, "Contact." Dr. Gray nodded. "Yes," applied externally. No sign of ingestion, no sign of inhalation. Another pause, absorbed through the skin. Miss Marple nodded again. She had expected that. She had seen the residue. She had noted the missing glove. "What medium?" she asked. Dr. Gray flipped a page. "Wax-based. Possibly resin. Something tacky. Something meant to hold the poison until touch." Raymond frowned. "You mean he touched something coated with it?" "Exactly." Miss Marple considered the possibilities. Many objects could carry such a coat, but only one object today had made sense. Only one object had shown clear residue. The mask. Held too tightly. Held too deliberately. Held as if someone wanted it found. Dr. Gray continued. "There were traces on his fingertips and on the outer palm. Left hand. Right hand was partially protected." Miss Marple nodded. "The missing glove." "Yes," Dr. Gray said. "If he had both gloves on, he might have survived." That statement hung in the room. Quiet. Heavy. Precise. Raymond swallowed hard. "So someone removed the glove? Or gave him an object that required a bare hand?" Miss Marple said. Dr. Gray closed his notebook. "This wasn't accidental. This was planned," Miss Marple agreed. "Plans always left fingerprints. Not literal ones. Patterns. Choices. Positions. Timing. The smear on the railing," she said. Dr. Gray nodded. "Same material. Same scent. Same yellow tint. Someone didn't notice they'd brushed it there." Raymond stood. "Why would someone use poison at a public fair?" Miss Marple answered calmly. "Because public places hide private actions. People assume chaos protects them." Raymond looked bewildered. "But who would know that kind of poison?" Miss Marple did not answer. "Not yet." Dr. Gray added one more detail. "The concentration was high, very high. Death in under a minute. No time to call for help." Raymond whispered. "Too fast." Miss Marple corrected him gently. "Too precise." She stood slowly, collected her knitting bag. She paced once around the table. Small steps. Controlled thinking. "The person who prepared this," she said, "knew chemistry. Not expert, level, but practiced." Raymond frowned. "Who in Winterwell knows chemistry?" Miss Marple didn't look at him. She looked at the door, as if someone already stood behind it, as if the answer had been waiting since morning. She said one line. Quiet, measured, certain. "The killer handled that object carefully." Raymond asked. "Which object?" Miss Marple turned her head, met his eyes, held his gaze. "The one Oliver trusted enough to touch." A knock sounded at the door. Hard, urgent. Miss Marple exhaled once. "Now," she said, "we see who comes forward first." Constable Hamble returned with a thin notebook. He looked tired. He looked uncertain. He looked like a man drowning in half-truths. Miss Marple stood beside him. Quiet presence. Clear mind. She guided him gently. No authority, just logic. "Start with motives," she said. "Motives always show before methods." Hamble nodded. He opened the notebook. Hands trembling. "Lady Amelia first." Miss Marple waited. She already knew the summary would be incomplete. "Oliver sent her letters." Hamble read. "Unpleasant ones. Demanding ones. Something about a debt she owed him. Something she refused to discuss." Miss Marple added softly. "Not money." Hamble blinked. "You're sure?" "Yes." Her certainty made him swallow hard. Lady Amelia had stood behind every whisper today. Her fear was not vague. It was specific, targeted, old. Hamble continued. "Next, Jonas Fielding." Jonas had finally admitted a past. Misunderstanding, business trouble, public embarrassment, a scandal in another town. Oliver knew the details, precise details. Jonas claimed Oliver had threatened to reveal them. Jonas also claimed he didn't care. But Jonas cared. His pacing had said so. His voice had cracked at the wrong moment. Miss Marple had caught it instantly. "Jonas is frightened," she said. "Frightened men hide facts, but they rarely hide them well." Hamble wrote that down like it was a new law of nature. He turned the page. Clara Merton. Miss Marple already knew Clara's section would be complicated. Clara was the emotional thread of the day. She admired Oliver, Hamble said, softly, awkwardly, as far as she would admit. He paid attention to her, listened to her, or seemed to. Miss Marple nodded. Oliver used charm like currency. Hamble looked surprised. You think he manipulated her? Yes, easily. Clara was vulnerable. Her hands shook whenever Oliver's name appeared. Her voice cracked around the truth. She had been drawn to him, then pushed away, then caught in something deeper than she understood. Her motive, Miss Marple said, would not be anger. Hamble whispered. Then what? Fear, she replied. Hamble swallowed again. Every answer Miss Marple gave made the motives worse, more tangled, more dangerous. He turned to the last page. Sir Bernard Linton. His voice lowered, as if the walls might hear. He was blackmailed, Hamble said. By Oliver, repeatedly, over something from his military years. Miss Marple listened. She did not react outwardly, but her silence meant calculation. Precise calculation. Bernard is controlled, she said. Blackmail presses on men like that, harder than on others. Hamble nodded. He seemed furious. Yes, fury is often the second stage. The first is desperation. 4 people, 4 motives, layered, heavy, all pointing back to Oliver. But each motive held a different shape, different weight, different potential for violence. Hamble closed the notebook. What now? Miss Marple looked toward the dark window, her voice calm, her logic sharp. Now, she said, we find out whose fear turned into action. A knock hit the door again, louder this time, urgent, insistent. Miss Marple lifted her head. Someone is ready to break, she whispered. Miss Marple returned to the fairgrounds just after dusk. Quiet steps. No announcement, no need. She preferred empty spaces. Empty spaces told the truth faster. The stalls stood half-closed, ropes tied, tables cleared, masks scattered. But she wasn't looking for masks now. She was looking for something smaller, something someone tried to hide in plain sight. She walked slowly, measured pace. She paused at the bandstand, looked at the railing again. The yellow smear remained, untouched, sharp, accusing. It pointed toward the truth like a finger. She moved on, checked under benches, checked corners, checked places. Careless people forget. Killers aren't always careful. People in panic rarely are. Near the sweet stall, she stopped. A faint shape caught her eye, half hidden under the curtain. Soft fabric, small size. She crouched, lifted the edge of the curtain. There it was. A glove, thin, dark, out of place. The missing glove. She didn't touch it with bare hands. Not after Dr. Gray's report. She used a folded napkin from her bag, lifted the glove gently, turned it over. Inside the lining, a smear, yellow, thin, dull, the exact shade from the railing, the exact shade on Oliver's fingers. She studied the inner seam. A tacky patch remained, wax-based, resin-like, sticky even after exposure to cold air. This was the carrier, the delivery system. Someone coated an object, then placed it in the glove, or forced Oliver to touch something without. Protection. Miss Marple stood, her eyes narrowed, her thoughts sharpened. The method was now clear. Contact poison, stored in wax, transferred through one exposed hand. She checked the ground again. No footprints, no dropped items. But something else was wrong, something subtle. The glove had been placed, not dropped. The position was too neat, too deliberate. A careless killer tosses things. A frightened killer hides them. A calculating killer places them just out of sight. This glove was placed, not discarded, not abandoned, placed. Someone wanted it found later, but not too soon. Not by a random passerby, by someone who understood meaning, by someone like her. She walked back toward the bandstand. Her mind sorted the clues. Oliver's missing glove. The smear on the railing, the residue on the mask, the note in his pocket, the tensions, the lies. One person had access to all of it. One person had motive strong enough. One person understood the timing. One person stood close enough during the fair. She breathed once, low, controlled. This was staged, she whispered. Carefully staged. She looked toward the Linton stall, then toward the inn, then toward Clara's small cottage. All three places held connections. All three held danger, but only one held the truth. A sudden gust lifted the stall curtain again. The glove shifted, revealing something beneath it. A folded scrap of paper, half hidden, half exposed, typed, familiar. Miss Marple's pulse tightened. She recognized the font. She had seen it before, on Oliver's final note. She reached for it with the napkin, opened it slowly, read the first line. Her eyes sharpened instantly. This wasn't meant for Oliver, she whispered. This was meant for someone else. She looked toward the darkness behind the stalls. Someone was watching. Someone who knew. She now understood the method. Someone ready to act again. Miss Marple requested a private word with Lady Amelia Linton. No accusation. No pressure. Just a quiet request. Lady Amelia agreed too quickly, too willing, too ready, as if she already expected this moment. They sat in the small drawing room, curtains half drawn, fire weak. Lady Amelia's hands trembled, not from cold, from memory. Miss Marple began gently. You've carried fear all day, my dear. Lady Amelia looked down, said nothing. Miss Marple continued. You were not afraid of Oliver's death. You were afraid of Oliver's power. A soft gasp. Lady Amelia covered her mouth. She tried to steady her breathing. Failed. Miss Marple leaned forward. Fear changes choices. Fear pushes good people into desperate acts. Still, Lady Amelia did not speak, but her silence shaped the truth more clearly than words. Miss Marple set the folded scrap of paper on the table, the one she found under the glove. Lady Amelia stared at it. Her whole body stiffened. Recognition. Immediate. Painful. You know this, Miss Marple said. Not a question. A fact. Lady Amelia nodded once. A tiny nod, but enough. Miss Marple opened the paper. Read the line again. The letter Oliver was meant to receive. Not the one he carried. Not the one in his pocket. A different one. A threatening one. Typed. Cold. Cruel. You wrote the first letter, Miss Marple said softly. To warn him. To push him back. To protect someone you love. Lady Amelia broke then. She covered her face. Her shoulders shook. Her voice cracked. He wouldn't stop, she whispered. He kept pressing. He kept hinting. He knew things he shouldn't know. Miss Marple listened. No judgment, just precision. Who were you protecting? Lady Amelia lifted her head, tears but steady eyes. Bernard, she said. Soft, barely audible. A mistake from his past, long buried. Oliver found it. Miss Marple nodded. Blackmail? Threats, Lady Amelia corrected. Not money. Exposure. He wanted influence. Control. And the letter? Miss Marple asked. I tampered with it, Lady Amelia whispered, her voice small. I thought if he opened it and found the message, he'd feel cornered, frightened. He'd leave us alone. Miss Marple looked toward the fireplace. So you prepared the letter, but you didn't coat it. Lady Amelia's head snapped up. No, she said. Firm, clear, absolute. I didn't know about any poison. Miss Marple believed her, not because of the words, but because of the posture, the shock in her eyes, the sincerity in her fear. You altered the letter, Miss Marple said, but someone else altered your alteration. Lady Amelia blinked, slow, confused. What do you mean? Miss Marple lowered her voice. The poison was added later. Lady Amelia froze, completely still. Her fear changed form, turned into understanding, turned into dread. Miss Marple continued. You set the stage. Someone else used it. Lady Amelia whispered. I only wanted to frighten him. Miss Marple nodded. I know. She stood, picked up her knitting bag, looked once toward the window. Someone watched from outside. A shape, a movement, gone too quickly. Miss Marple turned back to Lady Amelia. The truth is shifting, she said, and the real hand behind this is closer than you think. A loud knock hit the door. Hard, urgent, unexpected. Lady Amelia flinched. Miss Marple stepped forward. Stay calm, she whispered. The next visitor will tell us everything. Miss Marple asked Lady Amelia to sit. No pressure, no direct accusation, just a calm invitation. The kind that leaves no room for lies. Lady Amelia lowered herself into the chair slowly. Her hands folded tightly, her breathing uneven. She looked exhausted, not physically, emotionally. A woman carrying too much for too long. Miss Marple placed, her knitting beside her, a small gesture, signaling patience, signaling readiness. Then she waited. People reveal truth when silence holds steady. Lady Amelia spoke first, but only in fragments. Small pieces, loose thoughts. Oliver, he wouldn't stop. Bernard didn't know. He found old documents. Miss Marple nodded, not to comfort, to encourage continuity. Fragments slowly formed patterns. I altered the letter, Lady Amelia whispered. The words came painfully. Slow. Weighted. It wasn't poison, I swear to you. I used something else. What did you use? Miss Marple asked. Voice calm, barely above a whisper. Lady Amelia swallowed. A preservative. Something Bernard keeps in his study. He uses it on old maps, old medals, old papers. It keeps things from fading. Miss Marple understood. A stabilizer. A basic compound. Harmless on its own, but reactive under certain conditions, possibly misinterpreted, possibly exploited. Why did you alter the letter? Miss Marple asked. Lady Amelia's voice broke. To frighten him. Just frighten him. Nothing more. Tears followed. Not dramatic tears. Quiet ones. Honest ones. Oliver threatened me, she said. Threatened Bernard. Threatened our standing. Threatened to spread things from Bernard's past. She looked down, hands shaking now. He enjoyed the pressure. He pushed harder each week. Miss Marple leaned slightly forward. And you believed a threatening letter would stop him? Yes, Lady Amelia said. I thought he would back away if he believed we were not afraid. Miss Marple noted the logic. Flawed, but understandable. Desperation often bends judgment. And the chemical preservative? I thought it would stiffen the paper, Lady Amelia whispered. Make the letter feel official. Make it look handled by someone important, someone who could expose him. Miss Marple listened, quietly, absorbing each detail, each motive, each fear. You did not expect death, she said. A statement, not a question. Lady Amelia shook her head violently. No, never. I only wanted him scared. I wanted him to rethink his cruelty. I wanted him gone from our lives. But I didn't want him dead. I didn't want any of this. She wiped her eyes, straightened a little, found a small measure of dignity. I accept the consequences, she whispered. Whatever comes. Miss Marple nodded. Soft, thoughtful, not cold. You will face consequences, she said gently, but not for murder. Lady Amelia looked up sharply, confused, afraid, hopeful. Miss Marple stood, her voice steady, her logic precise. The poison was added later, she said, not by you. Lady Amelia's breath caught. Then who? A sudden scream echoed from the village green. High, sharp, immediate. Miss Marple's expression changed instantly. Not shock, recognition. She picked up her knitting bag. Her voice dropped to a cold certainty. That, she said, is the person who knows the truth. The scream faded. Then silence spread again. Not panic, just a tired hush. A village that had seen enough for one day. Word traveled fast, not through shouting, through whispers, through door cracks, through half-open windows. People gathered in twos and threes. Small groups, soft voices. No one wanted noise. Noise felt disrespectful. Noise felt dangerous. Mrs. Crowley was the first to speak. Of course she was. She stood near the bakery, hands folded, mouth low. Oliver wasn't a kind man, she said. Her tone wasn't cruel, just factual. He pressed people. He cornered people. He enjoyed watching them squirm. Someone beside her nodded. He made trouble with Bernard. He made trouble with Jonas. He made trouble with half the village. A thin man added, "Still, death is death, even for a man like him." No outrage followed. No speeches. Just a collective sigh. Heavy. Drained. A woman near the steps muttered, "I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner." Someone hushed her, but no one disagreed. Life moved, but slowly. Stalls closing. Chairs stacked. Baskets carried home. People walked without looking at each other. Not out of avoidance. Out of exhaustion. Clara Merton stayed near the far bench. Arms folded tight. Eyes red. Not from crying. From shock. From guilt. She wouldn't explain. People noticed. They watched her with quiet worry. Whispers circled her like a ring. Poor girl. He misled her. Used her. Played with her heart. Empathy, not blame, a rare thing in a small village. Near the church road, two men discussed Lady Amelia. Their voices low, measured, not harsh. She kept everything inside. She tried to protect her husband. She was cornered. Another added, "Any woman would fear a man like Oliver pushing so hard." No anger toward her, no suspicion from them, only tired understanding. People recognized fear when they saw it, especially old fear, especially the kind that breaks posture. Sir Bernard passed the group, rigid, silent, his face unreadable. But villagers stepped aside gently, respectfully. They didn't blame him either. They only saw a man holding too much, a man trying not to crack. Jonas Fielding kept his distance from everyone, hands in pockets, eyes on the ground, avoiding contact, avoiding questions, avoiding guilt. "Jonas looks shaky," someone whispered, "because he's involved, or because he's scared. No difference today." Small statements, but nothing sharp, no accusations, just exhaustion. Just fragile sympathy mixed with quiet suspicion. The fair grounds emptied, shadows stretched. But no one hurried home. Everyone moved as if waiting for something else to happen, as if expecting one more twist, one more truth. Miss Marple waited near the bandstand, still, calm, watching the last groups leave, watching reactions, watching silence settle. Raymond joined her. "They're not angry," he said. "No," she replied. "They're relieved." "Relieved?" She nodded. Oliver held too many strings. With him gone, the pressure breaks. Raymond frowned. "Then that means—" Miss Marple turned her head, eyes sharp, focused. "It means," she said, "the killer freed someone." Raymond froze. "Then who benefits?" Miss Marple didn't answer. Not yet. Her gaze shifted to a single window across the square. A light flickered. A silhouette moved. Hidden. Watching her. Miss Marple adjusted her shawl. Voice low. "The village feels calm," she whispered. But calm often comes before confession. The light in the window blinked out. Instantly. Deliberately. Miss Marple narrowed her eyes. "Someone," she said, "is preparing to speak, or preparing to run." Miss Marple visited Clara Merton first. Clara opened the door slowly. Her suitcase stood near the table, half packed, half forgotten. "You're leaving," Miss Marple said. Clara nodded. "I need distance. Too many reminders here." Her voice was steady but faint. Not fear now, just exhaustion. Miss Marple studied her posture. Still tense, still guarded, still hurt. "Where will you go?" "Back to my sister's," Clara whispered. "A small town. Quiet. Simple. No one will know anything." Miss Marple placed a gentle hand on the suitcase. "You seek peace," she said. "Not escape." Clara blinked, eyes softening. A small truth settling. Yes, Clara said. I want to breathe again. Miss Marple nodded. Then go with clarity, not guilt. Your fear did not kill Oliver. That broke Clara's last tension. Her shoulders dropped. Her hands loosened. Relief, plain and immediate. She finally breathed. Fully. Miss Marple left her packing. Next, Miss Marple visited the Linton home. Lady Amelia sat by the window, hands folded, shoulders still tight, but calmer now. You survived the day, Miss Marple said. Lady Amelia smiled faintly. A difficult start, but perhaps a possible future. She had moved the burnt papers away. She had placed flowers on the table. Small actions, meaningful actions. She looked toward Bernard's study. Bernard accepted the truth, she said quietly. He doesn't blame me. He blames himself. Miss Marple nodded. He will adjust. He has a strict nature, but strict men adapt when truth is clear. Lady Amelia breathed out. Then I will rebuild. Slowly, carefully. It was enough. Miss Marple walked next to the inn. Jonas Fielding stood outside with a single duffel bag. No theatrics, just decision. You're leaving, Miss Marple said. Jonas looked embarrassed. I'm not welcomed here anymore. You weren't welcomed before, she replied. Jonas laughed once. Short, flat, fair point. He shifted the bag. I didn't kill him, but I fed the tension. I knew things. I used things. Time to start over. Miss Marple did not argue. He needed distance. The village needed distance from him. He boarded the departing carriage without looking back. Constable Hamble stood near the green. Notebook under his arm. Straight posture. More confident than earlier. You handled a difficult day, Miss Marple said. He shook his head. You handled it. I simply followed. You learned, she said. That is enough. Hamble looked thoughtful. I didn't expect this job to change me. It always does, Miss Marple replied. Truth forces people to grow. He smiled weakly. Then I hope tomorrow is quieter. Miss Marple smiled too. We both know tomorrow rarely listens. Her final visit was to Reverend Paul Ashcombe. He stood inside, the church doorway, hands clasped, expression reflective, human frailty, he said before she spoke. That is what today showed me. Miss Marple nodded. Fear drives people into corners. Love pulls them out again. The vicar sighed. Oliver hurt many, yet his death reveals more about the living than the dead. He looked at the candles. I will pray for all of them, even him. Miss Marple stepped outside. The evening settled, paths opened, lives steadied. The village exhaled, but then she saw it. A figure standing near the bandstand. Still. Watching. Not moving. Not leaving. Someone who hadn't found closure. Someone with the last piece of truth. Miss Marple tightened her shawl. Miss Marple walked toward the bandstand alone. Steady steps. Calm hands. Quiet mind. The fairgrounds were almost empty now. No crowds. No voices. Just the aftertaste of a difficult day. She reached the steps. Paused. Looked around once. Everything remained. Exactly where it had been left. Stalls half-folded. Chairs stacked. Nothing disturbed. Yet everything changed. On the bench near the railing lay the white mask. Untouched. Unclaimed. Still holding its thin smear of yellow along one edge. The color had faded slightly, but the meaning had not. Miss Marple approached it slowly. No fear, just understanding. The mask had been the signal, the lure, the final trigger in a chain of choices. Some careless, some desperate, some cruel. She stood over it, hands clasped in front of her, thinking, reassembling the day piece by piece. Oliver's charm, Oliver's threats, Oliver's hold over people, every secret he collected, every pressure he applied, every quiet fear he exploited. It had all brought him here, to this bench, this object, this end. A single snowflake drifted down, small, soft, simple. It landed on the mask. Light contact, quiet touch. Miss Marple watched it settle. It did not melt quickly. It simply stayed, a tiny detail, yet a complete symbol. Truth settles the same way. Not loudly, not violently, just slowly, clearly, finally. Raymond approached from behind. Quiet steps, so as not to disturb her thoughts. "Aunt Jane," he said softly. "Is it over?" "No," she replied, her tone gentle, but precise. "Not yet." Raymond looked confused. The culprit is known. Confessions were made. Motives understood. The village is calm again. Miss Marple did not move. "Calm does not mean complete," she said. "There is always one more truth. One final piece. One forgotten corner where intention hides." She lifted the mask with a cloth, studied the inside, traced the line where the wax had been applied. "Oliver was clever," she said, "but someone else was patient." Raymond frowned. "You believe someone helped? Or watched?" Miss Marple answered with another question. "What do you think guilt does to a person?" Raymond hesitated. "Makes them hide." "Not always," she said. "Sometimes it makes them linger." Her eyes moved to the shadows behind the bandstand. A narrow space, dark enough for someone to stand, someone to watch her find the glove, someone to watch her inspect the railing, someone to watch her return tonight. She stepped closer to that shadowed place. Raymond followed. But she raised her hand, stopped him. No sudden movements, no rushed assumptions. She peered into the gap, her voice low, measured, certain. "There is still someone here," she whispered. Raymond tensed. "Who?" Miss Marple straightened, her face calm, her conclusion firm. "The person who feared I might discover too much." She looked toward the road. Lights flickered. Footsteps echoed faintly. Someone leaving in haste. Someone hoping it wasn't too late. Miss Marple stepped off the bandstand. Her pace sharpened. Her eyes narrowed. "This night," she said quietly, "is not finished." Davis returns with a gentle tone. "He thanks you for listening tonight. He hopes the mystery kept you curious." He asks softly, "Which moment surprised you the most?" Then, "Where are you listening from this evening?" He invites your thoughts in the comments. He smiles through his voice. He hints that tomorrow brings a new puzzle, a new guest, a new quiet village with a secret waiting to surface. He closes the night with his familiar promise. Tomorrow, another kettle will boil. A folded letter rests on the bench. Beside it sits a quiet teacup. The white mask remains still. A single snowflake settled on its edge. A lantern glows faintly nearby, steady and calm. No movement, no voices. Just the soft pause after truth. A moment held in place. A final reminder that even calm objects speak. The village breathes again, slowly, gently, but never forgets. Miss Marple sits by the fire. She reviews the day's lessons. Quiet truths, human choices, small, fears that grew too heavy. She accepts the outcome with calm grace. Winterwell breathes again. She closes her notebook. The room softens, the light fades, and the village finally rests.